Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Hagstrom, and I would like to introduce you to the Sacred Scrolls application and the team that spent the last few weeks producing it. As with other Code Platoon students, we are all in some way associated with the military. From the left, we have Brian Bartel, whose wife is an Air Force veteran, myself, Andrew Hagstrom, a Marine Corps Reservist, Joshua Minshew, an Army veteran, and Eric Mitchell, also an Army veteran. Over the past few weeks, it was an absolute privilege to work with these guys. I was inspired by their hard work, dedication, and talent. Just to give a brief overview of the presentation, I will first address how Sacred Scrolls came to be, and then we will proceed to a brief walkthrough of the website, where each one of us will talk about features that we had a special part in creating. Before wrapping up, I will briefly describe the third-party data sources and technologies used in the app and the overall challenges we faced in production. Sacred Scrolls is an answer to the lack of resources available to users who are interested in comparative religion and want to explore and compare multiple religious texts at once. Our goal with this project was to create an app that would allow users to engage with three major religious texts at once: the Bible, the Quran, and the Bhagavad Gita. Our website has several features that we will now describe and demonstrate: user authentication, textual comparison, favorites, journal, and posts. With that, I will hand it over to Joshua Minshew to begin the walkthrough of our website.
All right, so hello, my name is Joshua Minshew, and I was a backend and front-end developer on Sacred Scrolls. I'm going to be showing you the login and sign up page. I worked on this, and essentially what I use is basic token authentication. And just like most sites, there's on the sign-in page, you can click to register. We can go ahead and create an account. And when you create an account, you are then redirected into Sacred Scrolls, and then now you are free to use the other features that the app has to offer.
Hi there. My name is Brian Bartel, and I'm one of the partners of Sacred Scrolls. I'd like to take just a few moments to talk with you about textual comparison page and the favorites page on our website. The textual comparison page is where a user is able to simultaneously do a keyword search or key phrase search from the Bible, the Quran, and the Bhagavad Gita. So as you can see, these results are for the word life. If I change the search to joy, the results all change. We use React components like useState to store all of the different results that meet these criteria, so that then when I pull it up inside this little modal, I'm able to have the results update. On the Bible, when you hit see more, you get results in both Greek and in English. We're also able to see a full chapter view for both of these languages. This created a unique challenge because the Old Testament's in Hebrew. And so we needed to create an object on the front end that basically checked whether a given reference was in the New or the Old Testament. This created an additional opportunity to give the names of these books in their original languages. It also helped with our favorites component. I'll talk just a little bit more about that after I say a few words about the Bhagavad Gita. The Quran and the Bible both had keyword search components in the APIs we used. The Bhagavad Gita was different. We were not able to find a free API that had a keyword search. What we did find was that Mr. Kashish Kular had the entire Bhagavad Gita inside of his GitHub repo. We were able to use a Python script to adapt the JSON inside of his repo to fit our models, and then query our own Postgres database to create our endpoints. This was pretty simple for the verse and chapter view. We were able to do a filter, a single filter for both of those. But for the keyword search view, we needed to use a special Django module called Q that allowed us to do 3 queries simultaneously. We were able to make sure, basically we search the book, Bhagavad Gita, the language, in this case English, and then also make sure that a given text includes, case insensitive, the keyword or phrase that we use. So as you can see, if I go ahead and just paste that in there, then we'll get the same result. We can add any of our passages to favorites. This is a component that allows us to look at saved passages and reread them. If we decide that we don't really want to store a given passage, we also have the option here to remove it. So we can remove, we can add, and that's really all I have to say right now about the textual comparison page and the favorites page. If you check it for yourself online, you can read more in our tutorial modal, and you can also look at more about us on the About Us page. Without further ado, I give you Joshua.
Yeah, so another thing that I worked on Sacred Scrolls was the journal page. This is something I worked on for quite a bit. And I did the back end and front end for this, but essentially it's like a normal journal. The user can post things that they've learned in their studies or anything that maybe just popped out to them for future use. So you can go through and click different journal entries you have on the left-hand side. You can also edit journal entries, and you can save that. And we can see our changes we're adding. I love the Book of Genesis. And you can also delete journal entries by simply clicking the delete button, and our journal entry has left the side panel. And then on delete, it'll bring you to the creation component to create a new journal entry. But you can also click this plus sign here, and we can just say and after you create your entry, you simply hit submit, and we can see our journal entry was added into our side panel.
Thank you, Josh. And now I would like to demonstrate a feature that I played a particular role in creating, and that is the posts or comment feature. And that simply allows you to click on the comment button of any of these passages that show up in your search results. You can see I've searched for God here in all 3 books, but I can click on the comment button and it will take me to all the posts on that particular passage. In this case, Genesis 1:1. And I can also create a post. And so let's create a post. God is the creator. And there's my post, and you can see there's a timestamp and a reference. If I want, I can return to the search results. I can also click on the reference up here, and it will take me to the Hebrew of this passage next to the English. And I can go to this chapter modal and see more of the Hebrew as Brian has demonstrated. Now I have, this is the passage post page, which shows all posts on this particular passage, but I can also go to the posts page, which shows all posts of all users. For the ease of the user, I decided to create these 2 post pages. And this, by the way, was a particular challenge because it required calling 2 separate data fetching endpoints on the back end to filter the posts and having 2 separate collection points on the front end to render them. But this is my post, and you can see I can only edit or delete my own posts. I can't for other users. But let's edit this post. Let's just say God is the creator of heaven and earth. and I can save it, and there it is. I can also delete this post. So this is the post feature. And now I'd like to return to the presentation and talk about our third-party data sources. We initially used 3 APIs in Sacred Scrolls, but cut this down to 2 APIs and 1 fixture. You can see the API we used for the Bible was api.bible, and this provided our English, Greek, and Hebrew text for the Bible. For the Quran, we used El Quran Cloud, which provided us our English and Arabic texts. And but for Bhagavad Gita, we did not use an API. We actually used a JSON file, which we got from GitHub. And this gave us the English and Sanskrit text for the Bhagavad Gita. As far as the technologies used in this application, on the back end, we utilize the Python-based Django framework. This technology provides data processing logic and persistent storage, as well as managing data calls to our external data sources and to the organic data fixture for the Bhagavad Gita. PostgreSQL served as a database management system to store user data. On the front end, or client side, we use the JavaScript-based React framework enhanced by Vite and components from Bootstrap. These provide client-side page rendering and the logic for user interactions. Our codebase is managed through GitHub, and our production site is hosted on Amazon Web Services with facilitation from Nginx and Certbot. As far as the general challenges we faced as a team, one of the big ones was learning to collaborate on GitHub. Ensuring that our individual work did not conflict required us to be in constant communication with each other. And then another challenge was coordinating back-end with front-end development. We had 2 people working on the back-end and 2 on the front-end initially, and so we had to have close coordination to make sure everything was lining up. At times, we had to change our logic on the back-end to fit the needs of front-end implementation. And lastly, we had to determine how we would store our data. At one point, we contemplated trying to use fixtures for the Bible and Quran, as well as the Bhagavad Gita, in order to eliminate the need to fetch data from external websites, but we settled on using a fixture only for the Bhagavad Gita. And using the external data sources for the Bible and Quran actually allowed us to implement built-in search features available with those APIs. So in conclusion, we are very proud of our project, but we would like to expand it in the future when we are not operating under limited time constraints. We envision implementing AI to provide morphology and translation of the Greek, Hebrew, and Sanskrit words in the text. We would also like to have a drop-down feature that allows a user to access specific texts of their choosing without being constrained by keywords and phrases. And lastly, we would like to integrate more sacred texts, such as the Tao Te Ching, the Buddhist Tripitaka, or even the Egyptian Book of the Dead. With that, our presentation is concluded. Please visit our site at the link on the screen. And I would like to give a shout out to my colleagues and instructors at Platoon. And the floor is now open to questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sacred Scrolls. Opening up to questions. Actually, the first question I have, and this is going to go directly towards Andrew. I believe you said you developed the feature. Do you guys use channels for sockets and channels for being able to get that live update every single time a user creates a post?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so that's just the Windows.reload feature that I incorporated on the front end, and that essentially refreshes the whole page once the comment is posted, making it available on both post page, the passage post page and the all post page.
Okay, I see. So it would be a future implementation to use channels and sockets to get the live streaming without the reload.
That's right. Yeah, we could do it. We could have done it in a more elegant way, but for our purposes, that worked for us. But there's a lot of code that we'd like to refactor in the future.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I have a question. This is for anybody. If you could start over, what do you think you would do differently?
I'll answer that one. One of my short sites when I created the favorites function in the favorites page was how we handled our data. The way we stored it was just referencing the chapter, the book, the chapter, and the verses, and just whenever we would call the textual search page, that's how we would check to see if it was already in the favorites. And when we finally got the textual comparison page where users could pull up for their context what their searches, it wasn't, we wanted to implement it on the favorites page, but because of how we stored that data and manipulated it, it was really hard to have to go back and refactor everything with the time limit that we have. So just, yeah, looking back, I would go back and just change how we handled that, or how I handled that data and stored it in our database.
Oh, that's awesome. We got a question from YouTube. The question is, how did your team handle merge conflicts?
Yeah, I can take that question. Yeah, so we kept all our work on individual branches, and when we wanted to create a new feature, we create a special branch for that feature, and we would make sure to pull the main branch so as to make sure that our branches were constantly updated. But we also remain in constant communication with each other. When we were doing a pull or a push to GitHub, Slack was our main means of communication. But it served to coordinate our efforts in this regard.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Real quick, how did you come up with the logo?
Yeah, so that was we got that from a website called Fiverr.com. Essentially, just went on the website and typed in some keywords like scroll, sacred, ancient, or something along those lines, and then it brought up a whole array of images, and this one just really popped out to us. It just seemed the most elegant, and it convey the message that we wanted to best, and that is enlightenment and religious insight from the past, and so we were just really engaged by this image.